This was the first day of camp I've been to this year. Past few years, it's usually pretty dry camp where it's pretty uneventful. Like days like this can be sort of a grind in terms of like just like there's running drills and like just getting the storylines of the day.
Mm-hmm.
This day didn't really have many storylines developing for practice.
No, the only storyline was just the fact that they really gave those guys all pretty light. We couldn't see everything, but from what I could see, it was a pretty light workload for all the people down on the lower field. The O-lineman did some individual, hitting the small sled. Deron Harmon, who's rehabbing from a little injury he suffered last week, he did some running, but every time I looked over there and I circled back, and it was just, a lot of times they were just standing in a circle just talking to each other. So maybe a light day for the vets. I mean, the Patriots have had past training camps where they've been really banged up. I think it was 2 years ago maybe. They had 12 guys on the roster with hamstring injuries 2 weeks into camp, and that just carries over. You don't get a good look at some guys because they're too limited. I think they want to just try to stay as healthy as possible. They know they have a loaded roster at pretty much every position. He probably knows right now basically what the roster is going to look like. I don't think there are many true battles. I think, I did a roster projection earlier today, and I counted 40 locks, guys who I absolutely guarantee will be on the team. And I was even being a little conservative with that. There's some guys who I didn't count James Devlin as a lock. I didn't count Ted Karras, I think, is making the team. There's some guys that you can really bump that number up to 45, 46. So there aren't really there's not that much competition. They're pretty set. They know who they're going to have. So you want to make sure everyone is pretty healthy.
Yeah, even the one ooh, this could be the bubble guy, Rob Ninkovich. He retired. So even before the roster cut downs, the roster's really starting to sort itself out.
Yeah, I don't think this isn't going to be a year. No, it's not to say they don't have talent. The
problem is they have too much
on the back
talent.
end of the 90-man roster, but I don't think a lot of those guys are going to be you're not going to keep. I mean, they have a lot of good young undrafted corners, but the problem is they have 5 corners who are basically set. How many corners are you going to carry on a team? You're carrying Malcolm Butler, Stephon Gilmore, Jonathan Jones. Absolutely, I think is making it.
Yep.
Eric Rowe has been pretty impressive in camp. 3rd-year player, young, very long. Belichick likes his upside.
Yeah.
And Cyrus Jones, they're giving every opportunity to win that punt return job. So there's 5 right there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to carry a 6th, even if a guy is pretty impressive. The guy's going to be pretty useless to you on game. You're not going to dress 6 corners on game day. So
same thing at safety, because even
they have a lot
Jordan Richards.
Yeah, they have a lot of. They have brought in a lot of undrafted safeties, and it's possible that maybe one of them. We have a long way to go. Maybe in the preseason, one emerges and they like him better than Jordan Richards or maybe even Nate Ebner, but. Chances are, no, I think Belichick likes Richards, even though he hasn't really given them much defensively in the last couple of years. Belichick loves Nate Ebner. We all know that. And then Brandon King, if you want to count him as a safety, is a guy Belichick likes a lot too. So I don't think there's much. There's a lot of clarity. It's pretty clear who the roster is going to be. It might be 1 or 2 surprises, but they know what their team looks like.
If there is a sort of surprise narrative of a position that undergoes some sort of change that we didn't expect, what do you think it is?
That's a good question. Well, I think there's some uncertainty just along the edge, whether you want to call it defensive end or outside linebacker. They can place some of the same guys in those spots. Just Ninkovich's retirement opens the door for Coney Ely to step up, which he hasn't done thus far. He's not really getting many reps with the first team in camp. Dietrich Wise, the defensive end, 4th-round pick out of Arkansas, is actually playing a lot opposite Trey Flowers at defensive end. So there's somewhat of a position battle there. They've been experimenting with Harvey Longy, the undrafted kid out of BYU, in defensive end positional drills. Kyle Van Noy has actually seen some time there. So they're just experimenting with different guys right there. That's one that's pretty open. And then the running back thing is open too, but you know who the 4 guys are going to be. It's going to be Gillislee, Burkhead, White, and Lewis. It's just a matter of how the distribution and touches are going to be divvied up.